Wonder if AOC considers Russia's invasion of Ukraine violence. Does AOC consider Russia's invasion of Ukraine violence? I mean, is real violence actually literal, real violence? Violence? Does she consider like real violence violence, or is that just. I'm of the opinion, maybe of the minority opinion, that the Russia invasion of Ukraine is actually George Bush's fault. Yep. I just want to talk about the first constitution in the world. They have a 1996 constitution with amendments today, but Ukraine's got a history of constitutionalism. 1710. This constitution of 1710 actually had three branches of government. Before Montesquieu published his Spirit of the Laws. Montesquieu is where the three branches of government comes from. And it preceded it by like decades. So did Montesquieu steal from the Ukrainian Constitution? So the Ukrainians had the first constitution in the world. This is unbelievable. 1710, there's got to be somebody that happened before then, right? There's got to be. All right, so let's take a step back for a second, right? Sunflowers, the blue and yellow of Ukraine's flag represents the sky over the fields of grain. The sunflower seed oil is like one of the biggest. The sunflowers, of a Ukrainian feminine. Does AOC, the Mila Kunis, Ukraine is the second largest country in Europe by land mass. It's 4 times the size of Georgia, and it's slightly smaller than Texas. Ukraine is number 6, the 6th biggest nation in Europe by population. Ukraine is larger in size than France by 547,000 square kilometers, and Spain, Ukraine is the second largest of Europe's 43 countries. That's behind fucking Russia, if you count. Western Ukraine was part of the Habsburg Empire until the end of World War I. Is historically more Europe-leaning than the rest of the country. So that's why Zelensky is the president, because of the damn Habsburg Empire. Ukraine is the second largest nation in Europe via land mass, 6th largest nation in Europe via population. 17% of the Ukrainians are ethnic Russians. 17% are ethnic, but 83% of Ukrainians are ethnic Ukrainians. So, yeah, Ukraine, you got a lot of fucking Russians. There's a lot of Russians in Chicago. I don't know if Putin's going to invade Chicago anytime soon. The internationally famous dish, Chicken Kiev, supposedly it got popularized in the Continental Hotel located in the Ukrainian capital. It was their restaurant's signature dish consisting of boned and skinned chicken breast stuffed with butter and fried until golden. Boned and skinned chicken breast stuffed with butter and fried until golden. Sunflowers, blue and yellow. Mila Kunis, Femin, Ina Shevchenko. The world's first constitution was drafted and introduced in 1710 by Ukrainian hetman Pylyp, 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 Orlyk, Orlyk, Orlyk. So you had Pylyp Orlyk. Well, Pylyp Orlyk was sitting there writing the separation of powers. He was like, we need a judicial branch, a legislative branch, and a executive branch. He also wanted to restrict the executive branch. He also had the goddamn legislative branch, was like the Duma or some shit. You had this Ukrainian Constitution, 1710. It actually preceded the U.S. Constitution by 77 years. 1710. And this embarrasses, you might say it's not the best constitution, and there are problems with this constitution. The anti-Semitism, that's a big problem with it. But It's the world's, first constitution. And at least they got a constitution. You go to the UK, you go to England, they don't even have a motherfucking constitution. What's a goddamn ever? What guarantee of rights and freedoms do they have? What three branches of government do they have? Nobody fucking knows. Whatever Parliament comes up with, they just go along with whatever fucking Parliament, whatever crazy shit Parliament comes up with. That's how UK is ran. This Ukrainian Constitution talks about the rights and responsibilities of citizens and government. Let's see, 46 million people live in the Ukraine, and I like the Ukraine. Why wouldn't you say the Ukraine? That's fucking strong. Who are you? I'm from the Ukraine, motherfucker. Who are you? I'm just from Kentucky. The Kentucky? No, just Kentucky. Well, we're from the Ukraine, motherfucker. I know, that's strong, firm. It's eternal. The Ukraine, okay, fucking chill the fuck out, motherfucker. Just saying their country's name. Where you from? The Ukraine? Fuck, we didn't. Did we offend you? Ukrainian Cossack. So Pylyp Orlyk, he's a Cossack. This Ukrainian Cossack. He authored a constitution establishing the three branches of government, legally underscored the importance of equality and human rights. And there's a guarantee for free elections. Oh my fucking God. Freedom, democracy. You're going to have Montesquieu's Spirit of the Laws. That's published in 1748, 1910. So 38 years before the Spirit of the Laws. The Spirit of the Laws by the Bendery Montesquieu. He also established a Cossack parliament called the General Council, the General Rada. The General Council, the General Rada, a parliament, a legislative branch. What? After the Battle of Poltava, when Charles the 12th of Sweden and Hetman Ivan Mazeppa's armies were defeated by Peter I of Russia, Pylyp Orlyk remained with Mazeppa. Together, Orlyk, Mazeppa, and their Cossack forces retreated to the city of Bendery in Bessarabia, now Moldova, then part of the Ottoman Empire. The Zaporizhian Cossack army also settled in this area. When Mazeppa died on April 5th, 1710, Pylyp Orlyk was elected as the hetman of the Zaporizhian host. On the same day, he issued the pacts and constitutions of rights and freedoms of the Zaporizhian Zaporian host. Orlyk's constitution is sometimes referred to by the city of its proclamation, the Bendery Constitution. So you got, let's see, the separation of powers. We already mentioned that, but that's big, right? You got a lot of Americans that couldn't even tell you the executive, legislative, judicial branches separated, to stop tyranny. Montesquieu, the Spirit of Law. They couldn't come up with none of this shit. The Bendery Montesquieu, the Spirit of the Laws, executive, legislative, judicial. What the hell you talk? Get the hell out of here with that referendum initiative, recall. What kind of... The Constitution used the old Ukrainian, the original Ukrainian language. So there you go. Charles, the 12th of Sweden just happened to be around. Let's see. The day the document was signed, this is the U.S. Constitution. See, it's ratified. Let's see. It's written in 1787 and then ratified in 1788 and then introduced into operation in 1789. So what is that, the 1788? So the U.S. Constitution, right? It's the only one. The U.S. Constitution. But 1788, that's an old-ass piece of parchment. The U.K. has the oldest existing constitution, if you count the Magna Carta from 1215. Considered the founding instrument of... fuck the Magna fucking Carta. So the United Kingdom has no constitution. That's why the English people have no fucking... They're jelly bones, right? They got no constitution to not just their goddamn bones, but to their very souls. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, they adopted the Constitution in 1791. Norway adopted the Constitution in 1814. The Netherlands, 1815. America, 1788. Right? So 1788, 1791, 1814, 1815. We're talking about a constitution in 1710. So the U.S. Constitution beats the Polish-Lithuanian, Constitution and Norway and Netherlands constitutions, and these are early constitutions, like the earliest. So really, America's Constitution was the first fucking one. The Magna Carta. The UK don't even use the Magna Carta today. What, 2 sections or some shit? And who knows where? So 12, 15? Nah, they don't fucking count. They got a good start. English has a Bill of Rights too. The English Bill of Rights, the Magna Carta. How come England doesn't have a constitution or a Bill of Rights today? That's fucking embarrassing. And what the hell is their damn problem? What the hell is their goddamn problem? So there you go. Bendery Constitution. The independence of the new state from Russia is given as the primary goal of the Bendery Constitution. Apparently they missed some of the history, but whatever. Ivan Mazepa's politics and alliance with Charles XII of Sweden apparently are logical and inevitable. And it's mandated by the need to free the homeland. So the Constitution, they're going to expel with the help of Charles XII the Russians from the Zaporozhian territories to grant the town of Timiriv to the Zaporozhians to serve as a hospital, to disallow non-Zaporozhians to own anything in Zaporozhian territories. Zaporozhian? Fuck, it's just hard to say all that. Zaporozhian? Or are you a Zaporozhian or are you not? Yes, sir, I'm a Zaporozhian. No, I'm a Rastafarian. I ain't no Zaporozhian. The Constitution limited the powers of the executive. The hetman established a Cossack parliament similar to an extended council of officers. They were to meet 3 times a year. The general council was to consist not only of the general staff and regimental colonels, but also of outstanding and worthy individuals from each regiment. Articles 11 to 16 protected the rights of towns, limited the taxation of peasants and poor Cossacks, restricted the innkeepers. Charles II, King of Sweden and the protector of Ukraine, happened to be in Bendery at the time. He confirmed the articles, published in 1710. By then in exile hetman of Ukraine, Pylyp Orlyk, this document represents the height of Ukrainian legal political thought in the early 18th century. You had the preamble to the Orlyk Constitution, attributes to the existence of injustice and violence. In this case of the Muscovy state amidst hetman Mazepa's attempts to regain the Cossack rights and freedoms, thus appealing to God. The document, with the consent of the Zaporozhian army, hetman and general sergeant, aimed to set out the structure of the Cossack state. Ukrainian historian Al-Farov attributes the West's lack of knowledge and recognition of the text as the first modern constitution, predating the publication of Montesquieu's Spirit of Laws, to this ultimate loss of autonomy by the Cossacks. Okay, so what that means is, the reason why nobody knows about the 1710 Constitution of Ukraine is because they're going to lose their autonomy right after the 1710. They're going to lose their autonomy, I guess, 1713 or some shit. So they lose their autonomy. The Cossacks have no power, so therefore, what the hell did the Constitution? The Constitution was only put into operation for a couple years. But they said there's liberal ideas on the document. You got a social contract, right? It's a social contract for the people. You got obligations and duties in addition to the freedoms. They also said something about elections. So democracy, the foundation of state power, is vested in elections. So you had some Enlightenment ideals, but you also had, the goddamn fucking anti-Semitism. They're going to go ahead and say the Orthodox Christians are the state religion, and they're going to exclude all other religions, specifically Judaism, from the public and private sphere. And this following the history of the brutal violence against the Jewish people during Khmelnytsky's rule, Article 1. So, yeah, goddamn, they just had fucking brutality, and then they said, okay, but you can't, it's like nor has the Constitution specified the right to vote in an explicit sense. So no individual right to vote, just, the right to have elections, the right to the consent of the governed or some shit. It's given to those who are not part of the military ruling class of the hetmanate. Okay, so if you're part of the military ruling class, you'd have, some voting rights. The importance of the Ukrainian Constitution. The importance of the Ukrainian Constitution is that it shows a Ukrainian tradition of constitutionalism. They believe in constitutionalism, whereas the United Kingdom, the English fucking motherfuckers, they don't believe in constitutionalism, but the Ukrainian people, they've had a constitution since 1710. The current constitution was written or rewritten or whatever in its entirety, I think, in 1996 and with amendments. So they still have a constitution today, whereas the United Kingdom doesn't have a constitution. So I wonder if Putin, the dictator since 1999, is just pissed off and jealous that Ukraine, has a constitution with 3 branches of government. They got these fair elections. Putin's been, cheating on these damn elections over and over again. Not a single one of his fucking elections have been goddamn fair. Putin's a fucking dictator. The bombing of Grozny, the taking of, Crimea, the taking of the South Ossetia and the Abkhazia or whatever, the 2 regions in Georgia. And now the Constitution. So what? They believe in the Constitution. They believe in democracy. They have all these damn fucking Western values, these sons of bitches. It's pissing, old fucking traditional Putin off. So he's going to show, Ukrainian a thing or two. But that's the thing. I mean, there's a whole bunch of dates. Jackson Hinkle says, when did this war begin? Let's just go back to 1932. We don't have to go all the way back. Just go back 90 years. 1932. You had 4 million Ukrainians that were starved to death intentionally by Joseph Stalin and the Communist Party. That's Jackson Hinkle's boy. So the Stalin, is going to go into Ukraine to steal their goddamn grain because they didn't fucking prepare. So they're the damn grasshoppers. They're the fucking lazy grasshoppers stealing the grain from the fucking ants because they didn't do their fucking jobs and they didn't work and they didn't plan properly. And then they steal the grain and then prevent them from moving anywhere, essentially starving them, forcing them to starve to death. 4 million are going to fucking total 8 million. And then over half of them are Ukrainian. So we cannot trust Russia to take care of Ukraine. We cannot trust Russia to protect Ukraine. They don't give a fuck about the Ukrainians. They're going to exploit them. They're going to enslave them. They're going to hurt them. They don't have the Ukrainians' best interest in mind. They've already shown that in 1932, when the Bolsheviks actually tried to take them over, they declared independence. So you got half of them that, they started actually, the Ukrainians started the USSR with fucking, Russia and all the rest of them motherfuckers. But do they get any thanks? They also declared independence when the Bolsheviks, invaded. So, what the fuck, right? I mean, as much as I want to say we should give a shit about the poor, because the communists are such authoritarian, murdering, bloodthirsty fucking bastards, the Ukrainians are just desperate for independence. Fuck you. We're not going to be part of this, right-wing, left-wing shit. We're just going to be Ukrainian, whatever that, comes out to be. If that's left-wing or right-wing, who the fuck gives a fuck? We're Ukrainian. We're not going to do that shit. We're not going to do the Soviet Union communist shit. We're not going to do the Nazi shit. We're going to be Ukrainian. We're just going to do Ukraine for Ukraine. Ukrainians for, Ukraine for Ukrainians. And just FUBU. And just see what the fuck happens after that. So, yeah, I bet you there is some jealousy. They got a tradition of constitutionalism, 3 branches of government. They got democracy and shit. What the fuck? What the fuck? I bet Putin's just madder than a motherfucker seeing how Ukraine is just like kicking ass, taking names.